I'm so proud of you for making it to the end of the week. I hope you've joined us all 5 days this week, Monday through Friday, learning to dig into God's Word and to take next steps in following Him. If you've read today, which is January 28th, if you've read today's reading, you're finishing up the book of Genesis. Congratulations. If you've never read Genesis before, we hope that it was such a good time in God's Word. Genesis is the first book of the Bible. Genesis literally means beginning. We got to see the beginning of God's story unfold in His creation. And I hope it's been a blessing to you. If you've read Genesis before, I hope you've gleaned some new insights out of it and that it's really helped widen your perspective of how good your God is. So Genesis 49 and 50 are what you should read today, as well as in the New Testament, you should be reading a letter from Paul named Galatians, in Galatians chapter 4. The last two chapters of Genesis can kind of be a killjoy, really, as you're reading through it, because we go through fun story after fun story with highs and lows and very awesome dynamics, and then you get to Genesis 49 and 50, and they're all about death. They're all about the end of Jacob and his life and the end of Joseph and his life. And you can read those things and choose to be sad and fixate on the sad things, or you can learn something from it. One of my favorite memories of my grandpa before he passed away was that he taught me how to play billiards, pool. And we would play and we'd play and play. And he, growing up, he was a farmer in Iowa, and he had lost part of his finger in a combine accident, and so he called it his little nub. And so he would teach us how to play pool with his little nubbed fingers, what he would call it. And he was such a jokester and a prankster. But one of my favorite things I remember about my grandpa is that every time I saw him, for the most part, he always had some kind of ball cap on. And one of the ones that he really loved wearing was, he was a war veteran. He would wear his Korean veterans hats. And now, after he's passed away, I got to have one of those. And so every morning, as I'm walking out the door of my house, I have a little area of some things I got to collect from my grandparents, and I see that hat. And I'm reminded of the memories. I'm reminded of the days he's teaching me to play pool. I'm reminded of when I would go visit Grandpa and he would take me for four-wheeler drives on his farmland. I remember going out and checking on the cows. I remember being with my cousins, and my grandpa had this huge pickup truck, and he would haul us up the hill and down the hill as we would sled. I remember these things about my grandpa. But when I see the hat, I'm not only remembered of those fun memories, I remembered of the last few moments on earth I had with him, about how much he talked about how much he loved my grandma, but more importantly, how much he loved Jesus and wanted us to love him too. You see, death is not always a sad thing, especially for believers. We're going to miss him here on this earth, but for my grandpa, the more important thing was the legacy he would leave for the next generation to also love Jesus. And in chapter 49, we actually see that Jacob, if you read it today, Jacob blesses his sons over and over again, talking about what they're going to do, because he doesn't want them to forget. God has big things for you. Don't forget it. And you might be watching this, and you may not be near the end of your life. Maybe you're at the beginning of your time here on earth. But I want to remind you that we're not promised tomorrow from scriptures. We're promised today, and we can use today for God's benefit or for our own. And I want to use every moment. I want to challenge you to use every moment to leave a kingdom legacy. To remind those around you, whether it's your family members, your children, your grandparents, or maybe it's your grandchildren, remind them of the goodness and love and mercy of God. One of the best things my grandparents left me before they went to heaven was faith in Jesus, and instilling that in me and wanting to worship in heaven with me, beyond the fun memories of sledding, beyond the fun memories of four-wheeling or feeding cows with my grandpa. I remember his love for Jesus above all else. Today, I want to challenge you to leave your love for Jesus above all else in the people's lives around you. As Genesis comes to an end, we're going to pick up next week, Exodus, a new chapter. One of our lives are going to be similar. Our lives are going to end and a new chapter will begin, and how people proceed after us is impacted by the legacy we leave in Jesus. So choose to leave a faith legacy with every moment you have. If you're doing that already, I applaud you. Good job. But maybe you're like most of us that struggle to do that. And if you do struggle with that and figure out what it looks like to leave a faith legacy, comment. If you're watching this on Facebook or on YouTube, comment. We'd love to get a hold of you. If you're watching this in our app, get a hold of us. Send us an email. We would love to be in contact with you and helping you take next steps in your faith journey. Church, we hope you have a phenomenal weekend of praising Jesus. And then until we see you again, you are sent.